The village of Port Blossom nestled against the sea, a place where life was a rhythm of tides and nets, but also a place where storms roared with a terrible hunger. Young Caleb knew this life well, its beauty and its brutal edge, for he had seen both in equal measure. Tonight, the sea was angry. His father, Elias, a man as sturdy as the ancient cliffs that guarded their coast, had sailed out early that morning. Now, as the sky darkened and the waves crashed higher, Caleb felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. He knew the sea's moods were unpredictable, and tonight, it seemed to be in a vengeful mood. The storm broke with a ferocity that shook the very foundations of the village. Rain lashed down like whips, and the wind howled like a tormented beast, tearing at roofs and rattling windows. Caleb huddled by the fireplace, listening to the storm's relentless assault. Hours crawled by, each one heavier than the last. The storm showed no signs of relenting, and as the night deepened, the villagers began to fear the worst. Whispers of lost boats and shattered hopes filled the air, carried on the wind like ghostly echoes. Caleb's grandmother, a woman whose heart held the wisdom of the ages, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "Trust in the light of the Lord, Caleb," she said, her voice calm amidst the chaos. "Even the smallest flicker can guide us through the darkest night." Her words resonated within him, a tiny spark of hope in the overwhelming darkness. He remembered the old lantern, tucked away in the shed, its glass clouded with age, but still capable of casting a light. It was a fragile thing, but perhaps it was enough. With newfound determination, Caleb ventured out into the storm. The wind howled in his ears, and the rain blinded him, but he held the lantern high, its small flame flickering defiantly against the raging elements. He prayed with each step, his voice barely audible above the storm's fury. He followed the shoreline, his feet sinking into the sand with each step. The waves crashed against the rocks, their thunderous roar threatening to swallow him whole. Yet, he pressed on, driven by the unwavering belief that his father was still out there, waiting to be found. The lantern's light danced across the water, a fragile beacon in the overwhelming darkness. Caleb strained his eyes, searching for any sign of his father's boat, any indication that he was still alive. Doubt gnawed at his heart, but he refused to let it consume him. Suddenly, through a brief break in the storm, he saw it, a flicker of movement in the distance, a small, dark shape, tossed about by the waves. Could it be? He held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He ran along the beach, his legs pumping, his lungs burning. The distance seemed impossible. The storm determined to keep him from his goal, but he refused to be deterred, his focus solely on the dark shape in the distance. As he drew closer, the shape became clearer. It was a small rock, barely visible above the waves, and clinging to it was a figure that looked achingly familiar. Hope surged through him, stronger than any wave. "Father!" he cried, his voice hoarse from shouting. He plunged into the icy water, battling against the relentless waves. Each stroke was a struggle, each breath a victory. Finally, he reached the rock. His father, Elias, was clinging to it desperately, his face pale and drawn. Relief washed over Caleb, but he knew their ordeal was far from over. "I am here, Father," Caleb shouted, his voice barely audible above the storm. "We'll get through this together." He helped his father steady himself, his strength renewed by the sight of his son. The return journey was even more perilous. The waves seemed determined to drag them back into the depths. But Caleb held firm, his grip on his father unwavering. He repeated his grandmother's words like a mantra, "Trust in the light of the Lord." Slowly, painstakingly, they made their way back to shore. Each wave that crashed against them tested their strength. Each gust of wind threatened to tear them apart. But they persevered, fueled by their love for each other and their unwavering faith. Finally, they stumbled onto the beach, their bodies aching, their lungs burning. The villagers rushed to their aid, their faces filled with relief and joy. Caleb and Elias had returned, against all odds. As they sat by the fire wrapped in warm blankets, Caleb looked at his father, his heart overflowing with love and gratitude. He knew that they had faced the storm together, and their faith had guided them through the darkest night. The storm eventually passed, leaving behind a village scarred but not broken. The fishermen returned to their boats, their hearts filled with renewed hope. Life in Port Blossom continued, its rhythm once again dictated by the tides and the nets. Caleb continued to walk the shoreline, but now he carried the lantern with a different purpose. It was no longer just a light to guide him through the darkness, but a symbol of his unwavering faith and the power of love. He understood that even the smallest flicker of faith could illuminate the darkest path, and that true bravery came not from the absence of fear, but from the courage to hold on to hope when all seemed lost. And so, the story of the lantern in the storm became a legend in Port Blossom, a testament to the enduring power of faith, love, and the unwavering light that guides us home, even in the darkest of nights. For in the heart of every storm, there lies a light waiting to be ignited, a flicker of faith that can guide us through the most turbulent waters, and a love that can bring us home, safe and sound. Caleb knew now, without a doubt, that even when the world seems lost in shadow, the light of the Lord shines brightest, leading us through every storm back into the harbor of his everlasting love.